All right, stick with me here for a second. We're going to be talking about armored vehicles in Star Citizen, but as I currently don't own any in Star Citizen, we're going to use some different footage instead to kind of keep in the spirit of things, because the Nova tank has yet to emerge in the game. The ballista exists, but it is a considerable logistical feat to get it to where you need it. So, it's not really something that is seeing a lot of use currently in the Star Citizen universe. And that is kind of where I want to start off this discussion, because there is a saying in regards to, battlefield commanders and such, that amateurs study tactics, professionals study logistics. And when we get to the point of talking about armored vehicles like the Nova tank and, like the ballista, we are now dealing with something of a logistical issue. It's not just a question of would it be good in this situation, would it be good in that situation. It's can I get it to this or that situation in a time that makes it relevant to the battle, or is it just simply going to be too much of a logistical headache to get it there? Currently, possibly the Carrack is going to be able to carry these things, possibly, fingers crossed, but CIG has offered no guarantees. We may see it with the advent of the Hercules, possibly. It is going to come into the game. Once again, this is not a vehicle that is finished, and some people say, oh, of course they're going to finish it. Yeah, we said the same thing about the Hull C, and how many times have we heard that the Carrack is going to go into production only to see it delayed? So, the idea of owning one of these, even if the ships were in the game, becomes a logistical problem. Can you get them to the battlefield when they're relevant? Because it's one thing to kind of have a situation emerge that you can take advantage of, but having a force that requires a lot of pre-planning and a lot of logistical setup in order to bring them to the battlefield can be somewhat problematic. Pause for destruction. Okay, there we go. And that, hence, the expression, professionals study logistics. It's not a question of can you do a thing or can you not do a thing. It's can you do that thing in a way that's productive, right? And that is the problem with armored vehicles. They require a lot of setup, a lot of pre-planning, and a lot of logistical legwork to get them to where you need them to be. Now, does that mean that I don't think that they're good for all players? No, absolutely not. But I think in general, broadly speaking, for a pirate, I think that they're not that great of an idea. Something, like a Cyclone TR, the Jeep with the gun on the top, or something like a space bike, I don't think is that bad of an idea. But when you're kind of moving up to things like the Nova tank or things like the ballista, because of how much work is required to get these things to the battlefield, it may prove to be more of a hindrance than a help, because you may lose opportunities that you want to take advantage of because you're waiting to, I got to get the Hercules and I got to get it all set up and I got to get it loaded on the Hercules. I got to get the people onto the Hercules that are going to drive it, all of that sort of thing. It can be quite a nightmare to set this thing up, because remember, once you bring that ship with your Hercules to the battlefield, or once you bring that tank rather to the battlefield, who's going to look after the ship? Are you just going to leave your ship there and then hop into your tank and drive around in your tank and then come back to your ship? Is it going to be safe? Do you know? I mean, your enemy may be in a situation where they may not be able to fight you on the ground, but they may be able to sneak in and destroy some of the ships that you have laying around while you're running around in your ground vehicles. It's kind of one of these situations where it seems good on paper, but when you really think about the problems that come along with it, the challenges, the difficulties, it can be quite a daunting task. Defensively, having them already preloaded at a location, let's say you have a drug lab somewhere, and you want to, have these vehicles there to guard your drug lab. If you end up having to abandon that drug lab for whatever reason, those vehicles may be too difficult to free up from that location. It may prove to be just too difficult to get the vehicle out of that location. So it's kind of something handy to have there, but at the same time, if the enemy is bringing such a force to that location as to basically push you out of it, then is there really any point of going there and getting into the tank in the first place? If they're bringing enough muscle to basically get to a point of a ground invasion, maybe it's best to just forget about it and just walk away instead of basically feeding them kills. So, are tanks ultimately a bad idea? Should all the pirates just liquidate their tanks? Not really. If you're looking for something that you're going to be using every day, if you're looking for something that you're always going to be able to use 24/7, and that's kind of what you've hung your money on, I don't think so. Now, if you're looking for something that occasionally is going to be very useful, quite possibly. Remember that there's a lot of parts to Star Citizen that we have yet to see. There are a lot of gameplay elements that we have yet to see. It's often one of the big complaints with the community is, where are the game loops? Where is salvage? Where is this? Where is that? Where's medical gameplay and all that sort of thing? There's a lot of depth in missions that have been hinted at but never realized in game. For instance, one of the first things they showed us in the Pathfinder demo, which was 2015, 2016, somewhere in there, which was, of course, the demo with the big sandworm, we, of course, saw that it was necessary to take a ground vehicle to go to a relevant mission location. And we know that weather effects are going to limit the ability to get a spacefaring vehicle basically directly to a mission location. We may wind up in a position where we do have to carry heavier vehicles into the battlefield, whether it's logistically convenient or not. So it is very possible that we could get into a situation where not having a vehicle like this could be a detriment. We just don't know exactly what shape this is going to take. Now, in pirate missions, it may be different. You may see less and less of this, and this may be something that is more focused on... One sec, hold up. Okay, so something that is more focused upon, what is convenient to pirates, something that requires something more like a dragonfly, maybe like a cyclone, something that requires less of an overall time investment, whereas something that is more organized, say like a legitimate mercenary corporation's missions or bounties or whatever, could necessitate something like this more often. Once again, these are the things that we have yet to see materialize in games, so we don't really know how good they're going to be. And so we kind of enter into like this weird territory where we get into the questions and the comments that people sometimes leave on videos. Should I CCU this into something that is more valuable, or should I just liquidate it and buy something that is more valuable? I honestly, when I look at ships, I always look at, okay, what am I going to get the most usage out of on launch day? What is going to benefit me the most broadly? There are like one or two things that I keep because I like them, because I think that they are cool, and pretty much that's kind of the main reason behind them. They do have some practical value. That's the reason why I got rid of the glaive, but ultimately some of them are just there because I like them just as much as they are practical. Hang on, there we go. Okay, so for every player, I think that that's where you kind of be. You have to kind of make a judgment on your own if it's a good idea. That wasn't a good idea, peeking with us. Super Hellcat was a bad idea. But that's ultimately where you are. Is it a good idea for me to do this? Is there something more practical or more beneficial to me that I can invest in immediately? Ultimately, I don't think the ground vehicles are going to be the most expensive and egregious purchases in the Star Citizen universe. In fact, I think they're going to come in probably a little bit cheaper. Hang on. So they may be something that you're able to pick up in the universe relatively easily while you're kind of working your way up and while you're building things up. So owning one immediately may not prove to be that much of a necessity. You may be able to kind of say, you know what, this is something that I do want, this is something that I do want to get, but it's not something that I need right now, and maybe there are other things that may come to light gameplay wise that it may be very beneficial to own a Herald. I know even as I say it, I'm smiling and laughing, but one day they may actually put Herald gameplay into the game, and you may want to have the ability to hack things or to run information. It may link to a reputation that you want. Who knows? There's a lot of things that are up in the air, and we don't really have an idea of how we're going to work through. We have a kind of an idea of how they're going to work, but we don't really have an idea of how that works with us and works with our progression and our access to content within the game. So that's something to think about. Anyways, that's the show for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it, and wait for it. Thanks for watching.
Thank you for watching. So if you want to keep up with the latest and greatest in Star Citizen and Squadron 42's development, please follow us on our social media channels. See you soon.